Gentlemen, for those of you who followed me for a while now should know that I'm converting this machine to solid state. It came to me in a state where it was not economically viable to repair. In fact, it was pretty much buggered. So what I suggested was we convert it to a solid state machine, and the owner was more than happy to take that chance. So what I did was I gutted everything from the bottom of the cabinet, and I stripped out all the wiring from the playfield. Also stripped out the back box. I'll show you the back box now. And then I installed in it the boards I normally use to build my other machines. What you see on the left-hand side there is the power supply. It's got a relay for the flippers, and it does all the AC to DC conversions there. The board on the right-hand bottom is a lamp driver, and it uses almost exactly the same circuits as the old lamp drivers for the belly boards. Next to that, or just above that, is my CPU board. That runs at Mega 644 at 16 megahertz, and all it does is it reads switches and it does the game logic. Above that is the solenoid driver board, and all these boards are connected on a 485 serial bus. So the CPU board will do game logic, and when it needs to ring a bell, it will send a command down to the solenoid driver bus saying ring that bell or pulse that solenoid. And everything is done so the comms happens as fast as it can, and the CPU is freed up to read the switches as fast as it can. I still don't have it optimized completely, but it runs more than good enough for the machines I have here. So underneath the playfield, I've rewired the switches to go into a switch matrix. I've converted all the solenoids to go DC, so I had to put in resistors. And because I've converted the AC to DC on the flippers, I've installed this little resistor board that only kicks in on the hold side, so the power stroke is still nice and crisp, and the hold stroke doesn't draw as much current. They still get a bit warm, but they will get warm under normal circumstances anyway. Other than that, not much has happened, but on this specific machine, I had to rewire that rotor unit so that I could read an array of switches to tell me which target I hit left or right. That was a bit of head scratching, but it turned out not to be so bad after all, and the way I wired it makes it easier to code. Okay, so that's the machine's digital side in a nutshell. Normally when I build machines, I build them with digital displays. Like over there you can see a fast draw black glass, and next to it one of my Spirit of 76 back glasses, and you can see the score windows are slightly smaller, and because of that there's a little bit of space in between them, which I use to insert that Saturn V rocket there. So it still looks like the original, but the score windows are smaller because of the digital displays. So back to this boy. Let me show you the back. In the back, I've stripped out almost all the spiders and the stepper units, except for the credit unit there, which I still need to display the credit window on the inside. All the lamps have been wired to individual lamp channels, and the score reel units are wired to the solenoid driver, and I read the 0 switches on each unit. So these score reel units are driven from the CPU side. I'm not going to get into the software details, but I've come up with a scheme that works well and doesn't take up many resources. As you can see, the playfield on this one is really battered and redone. So it ended up being the ultimate sleeper machine. Looks like rubbish, plays like magic. And it will keep playing. I don't care how dirty it gets inside. I don't care how many wasps make a nest inside the score reels. It'll just keep going. Digital is like that. It takes away all the maintenance. So it still looks exactly like it did when it came in. And we're going to leave it like this to keep the patina, to keep most of the character of the machine. Just make it play. Switching the machine on does nothing but light up the ambient lighting, so you can see whether it's on or not. And then when you press the replay button, the score will reset to 0. And it will kick out the ball into the shooter lane. And because it rolls over a little switch over here, just on the end of the shooter lane, I know when the ball is in play or whether I need to kick it again. On many games, if the ball doesn't go all the way out and it falls back, you lose a ball. It'll advance the player, or it'll advance the ball. This being a one-player unit, it was a little bit easier to get the scoring done. Let me just show you what it looks like when it scores. It's a bit difficult to get everything into one shot, but here goes. So you can see there's a bit of a lag between hitting the switch and getting the score updated. And that's unfortunately a necessary evil to make sure that things like thumpers remain crisp and quick. Score updates can happen in the background because you're not watching that anyway. You're watching what's happening on the board here. That is a nice fast thumper, and it's because these switches are read first and the thumpers are given priority. So that, people, is my first prototype converting electromechanical to solid state. I'll call these machines chimeras because they're a combination of EM and solid state. The EM bit being the score reels and the solid state bit being the rest. If you're interested in me doing a machine like this, unfortunately it's going to cost you a bit of money because it's a shitload of work. But I am considering it for future work. If you have an old quick draw or you have an old Spirit of 76 lying around that's beyond repair, we can bring it back to life. Please let me know what you think. Obviously, the game rules are now much easier to change and implement all sorts of other features. Like on this machine, I'd like to take those lamps over there and convert that to a bonus tree because this machine will be free play. So hitting a special won't give you that much joy. But getting a whole lot of these lamps might give you an extra incentive to hit the roto-target. Otherwise, the roto-target is just there for fun. Those targets are very difficult to hit. And it's much more lucrative to just get the ball up the side there, going through the top lanes, and then hitting the side lanes for hole value. So a special doesn't really enter into the game, not as much. But like I said, we can change the game rules if need be. If you think of anything cool to do with this machine as far as the software goes, let me know. Let me know what you think. Thanks for watching.